welcome to yet another episode of the LSE One India Talks. My name is Abrar Ogbotwala and this is my colleague Ritika Abraham.
Today, we're thrilled to have with us an alumnus of the London School of Economics and Political Science. She recently celebrated the first anniversary of the foundation of her party, the Plurals. Declaring herself as the chief ministerial candidate of her party in the Bihar Assembly elections, she created quite the stir, causing the public to stop and take notice. Thank you for joining us today, Ms. Pushpam Priya Choudhary.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Let's begin by discussing your time after you finished your Masters of Public Administration at the LSE. Could you tell us if there was a specific moment that spurred on your political ambition, or if it was something that was always ingrained in you, given your family history?
It is more to do with me than my family history. I'm a Bihari. I'm born and brought up in Bihar in a very small town, Darbhanga. And I don't know if you're aware or not, but even once I finished my graduation, I came back and I worked in the government, Bihar government. So I have seen things very closely. I've worked with top-notch ministers and bureaucrats, and I saw how things went on and worked for a very long time, around 4.5 years, I guess. So there was not a single day or a single moment where I realized that, I should do this now. It was always there. I always wanted Bihar to do better. And I saw that it was not possible with these people around, especially with these people in power. Because, when you work with them, you see how they work and the things that are important to us. Important to them. And that is quite different from the things that are important to the public. So, it was there inside me since a very long time. And you can say in a way, when I went to LSE, I knew I wanted to do it. And that's also one of the reasons that I went to LSE. A lot of professors at LSE, they knew it because I used to discuss it with them. So it was always there.
Thank you for saying that, Ms. Chaudhary. I want to pick up on something that you just said. You have spent a fair amount of time in the UK completing your higher education, firstly at the University of Sussex and then at the London School of Economics. Do you believe this was instrumental in shaping your desire to be the Chief Minister of Bihar? Or in hindsight, do you believe you would have advantaged from studying in India, which would have allowed you to spend that time in your constituency campaigning?
If you're a Bihari, if you're born in Bihar, you typically, if you want to study more, if you want to pursue higher studies, you generally leave Bihar because, unfortunately, we do not have that quality of education in Bihar. And that's the reason that I left Bihar for my undergraduation. And see, that's the thing. It's everything is interrelated. A lot of people, they think that, I went there, I studied at LSE, and then suddenly one fine day I decided that, I should go back and do this. Whereas the reality is that I went there because I wanted to do this. And I think that, yes, you need a certain kind of qualification to do this. And I'm not saying that, someone who lacks that qualification cannot. If you have a very strong intent, if you really want to change things, you can still hire people who have, exposure in public policy. But then again, as far as I am concerned, I felt very strongly that I need to be prepared to take up those challenges that I want to. And the biggest challenge is a complete transformation of Bihar. So that is why I left. That is why I studied development studies first at IDS. And I didn't have a background in PPE, I didn't have a background in politics, philosophy, or economics. So that was a start for me. So then, I trained myself in all these subjects. And then I went on to study at LSE because I thought that, my training needs to be more specific and more specialized. There's this one misconception. Policy making is very difficult. It's not easy. And unfortunately, in India, we think that if you're born in a political family, politics is in your blood, or public policy is in your blood. And that is not the case. These are important matters. how you spend the public money is an important question. It's an important thing. It does not depend on, whims and fancies that you wake up one day and you feel that we should have flyovers and you get all these flyovers everywhere. You have to do that in a very simple language. You could say cost benefit analysis. Like, you need to know where to spend that money and where not to. So I very firmly believe that one needs to be very trained to take up this job. And that's one of the reasons that I tried and acquired all those knowledge that I did at IDS and LSE.
Talking about your political party, the Plurals, Ms. Choudhary, can you tell us what exactly inspired you to set up this party? And today, what is the foundation on which the party rests?
I am the party is fighting corruption. Corruption has become, it's just a political jumla these days. So, but I'm talking about the real corruption. I'm talking about the real issues in Bihar, in India, per se. And I have seen this corruption very closely. I told you that I've worked in the government. I have seen how things go on in a government department. These frontline workers, when you interact with them, they can make your life really difficult. And some people who are stuck in these government offices where they want to do some good cannot do anything, because it's crowded by such people, who are, you can say, occupying that space, and everyone is corrupt. So public services need to be a certain way, which is not the case in our country. Like, if you talk about Bihar, these politicians, no one here talks about human development. No one here talks about education or health. And even if they do, it's only around elections. It's just propaganda. And this plight of public services in our state, especially in Bihar, it's really bad. And we are here to fight it. We are here. And I often say this to all the workers in the party, that this fight is not difficult because we are fighting our own people. In Bihar, everyone is political. Like, you will hear this a lot, that everyone knows politics in Bihar. And the downside of that is that everyone is a co-supporter of one party or the other. So, in a way, there is no space for us, but we are trying to make that space, because a lot of people, they know that when it comes to development, no one cares. When it comes to winning elections, no one really cares. Winning an election is very twisted. It's very, very twisted. Everyone in India knows how people win elections in Bihar, or how people win elections in India, for that matter. But we still do not talk about it. So we are here to talk about all these things. We are here to go to that legislative assembly and legislative council and make real policies of real transformation and real change. So that is what the party is doing. That is what I'm trying to do. And we have a lot of people in the party who are from Bihar and who want Bihar to change. And all of us are just pushing the agenda of transformation wherever we are.
Ms. Choudhary, you're often seen talking about the quality of candidates that are being fielded by the Plurals Party. So for the general public, what does the average or even ideal candidate from the Plurals Party look like?
See, we have all kinds of candidates. There's this rumor that only people who are highly educated and who have like big degrees are candidates. That's not true. Most of the things that you hear about us are just lies. So I always tell my people, don't believe what you read or what you hear. We have all kinds of candidates. We have proper social activists who have been fighting in their areas. We have educated people as well. I'll tell you this one thing about me. To me, education means something else. It does not mean having a degree. You can still be illiterate, the dictionary meaning of illiterate, and still be educated. Because what education does, or the exact role of education, is that it makes you think. That is why we study. That is why the entire world talks about education. Because you should be able to, education enables you to think, to question things. And a lot of people may have degree, but that won't make them educated. They're just literate. And a lot of people who, because of unfortunate lack of access, you can say, fail to get those degrees, are still, striving wherever they are. They're still questioning the establishment and they are still demanding answers. So for plurals, all these people are educated. What matters the most, apart from the degree, is that you have that intention for Bihar. You have that courage to question all these people who are meant to be so powerful, because they have the entire system behind them. And I consider these people really educated. So in our party, you'll find all sorts of people, but we all have one thing in common. We want this politics, which is lost all the moral compass in India, to change. Because we understand that politics is important. It's not, this whole trend that, oh, I'm not interested in politics. It's not doing us any good. And there's this very common thing that I often say, that you need to control politics, as politics will continue to control you. And that's exactly true, especially in the case of Bihar. So, and this is really interesting, Ritika. When I opened this party, when we started this party on 8th of March, I didn't know how to go about it because, you started and you don't know what will be the reaction, and you're thinking about so many things. And also because I had a political background and I knew these people really well, like really, really well. So I had no idea how the country will react or how my people will react. But it was strange. One can write a book on it. It was very strange. The reaction from different sorts of people, different groups of people, there was this mixed reaction. But all these people who now I meet, I feel really, really proud that we are all on the same page. They are really good people. I have seen politics. I know the kind of people who are there in politics, regardless of the fact that they've lost their election, they still care about the issues, the local issues. They'll come to me and they'll get all these letters and they'll tell me, Madam, this is what is happening. There's this Vidayak, he's not doing anything. I don't know what to do. And they know that elections, unfortunately, in Bihar are not won on the basis of the work that you do, yet they care about work. And I feel really, really proud. And I think that is one achievement that Plurals has achieved so far. We got these people who hate politics and politics. And I hope it goes on like this till the end of life.
Thank you for that, Ms. Choudhary. Let's spend some time discussing Bihar specifically. How would you define your father's relationship with Chief Minister Nitish Kumar? And would you say that this had any impact on your political aspirations?
They have a very good relationship. That's the truth. I think he met him even yesterday. They have a very cordial relationship. And it's not just my father. I mean, it started since my grandfather. If you remember, if you go back and if you research a little bit about Mr. Nitish Kumar, when he came into politics, he came like this messiah, and someone who only talked about development. He never talked about anything else. And we all were really hopeful. I remember my grandfather, he used to love him, and they loved each other. They really respected each other. And, he used to tell me about Mr. Kumar every day, like all the time. Like my mom, when she gets angry, she tells my dad, ki ek mala le lijiye aur jagte rahiye. They only talk about Mr. Nitish Kumar at home. And that's the environment in which we were growing up. Though we had a very insulated life. Like I specifically had a very insulated life. I never had friends. I had no friends. I just used to go to school and come back and then study again. And that's that. But the relationship of my father with Mr. Nitish Kumar is really good. Unfortunately, when I meet my father, I have to listen to his stories even now, because he's my father and I can't tell him that, you should not tell me this, but he's always all praises about him. But it is not about my father. And I'll tell you why. See, I completely stand against Parivarvad, against nepotism, because I believe that if you talk about justice, if you talk about social justice, if you talk about liberal values, these are the things that you need to drive out of the society. These are the things that, these are the reasons why we have unequal access. And it's really funny because you'll see all these people in India who talk about liberalism and liberal values and who talk about social justice. I mean, they are all a product of nepotism. That's absolutely funny. And at the same time, very, very sad. Because justice means access to opportunity, equal access to opportunity. And these people, they hoard that access. They block others from getting that access. So I really, really dislike, I think I've said it on record many times, that it is very unprofessional talking about family. I'm not asking you about your father. I'm not asking you about Ritika's father, because I don't care. I'm talking to you, and you are who you are. Why talk about father, mother, and I don't know, grandfather in politics? Why? Why do we think that politics should be, or policy making should be in blood? That's nonsense, right? I am not where I didn't study at LSE because of my father. Did they ask you who your father was when you applied there? No, they don't. You studied there because you wanted to study there. You had some grades that you got. You worked hard on yourself. So, we should stop talking about fathers in politics. In my case, it's more irritating because I did not ask anyone to vote because I'm my father's daughter, right? I didn't tell anyone. I was not launched by JDU. In fact, I stood against all these people who either are my father's friend or who I have seen when I was growing up. So a lot of people, they try to overemphasize this, that she's the daughter of a JDU leader. It doesn't really matter. I'm not here because my father is a JDU leader. He was a member of Legislative Council, which no one talks about. That was his designation. But first and foremost, he's a professor. And when I was growing up, he was not an MLC. He became an MLC when I was in college. So, the one person who you should talk about, if you want to talk about me, is probably my mother, because whatever we have done so far, it's because of her hard work. And probably our hard work. It's not because of my father's name, but yes, there's no denying that I know Mr. Nitish Kumar very well. I know him very closely, and it is not about him. I'm sure that even he is confused why I did what I did. I'm sure we've never talked after that, and I don't think we are going to talk ever, probably. But it's not about him. Governments are not run by a person. And more so in our country, because it's such a hypocrisy. We have a parliamentary system, right? So in our country, it's not about leaders at all. But in reality, in our country, politics is all about leaders and not about institutions. And that is something that I want to change. And to do that, the first thing that's mandatory is to stand against Parivarvad, to stand against this unequal access to opportunity, just because you're so and so's son or daughter. So that is why I did not join JDU, which was very, very easy. If I wanted power, or I wanted, that chair that everyone is trying to attain, it's stupid then to open my own party. There's no point. Starting everything from scratch is very, very difficult. It's very difficult. And I should have just joined JDU. And if you get a ticket from JDU, you win. That is what happens, because this time around they were contesting with BJP, so it was easier. So you have to be tactful, and you have to choose a constituency from where that traditional caste equation combination works, and you can just win. But that is not why we are here. We are standing here against all these things. No one in my party knew me before 8th of March. No one. All these candidates that you see, they have become the candidate just by an interview, because it was in them, and this is how politics should work in the country. And that is what we are trying to do. Probably it's new. Probably we are the first party who's trying to do it. And that's why people are confused, because, human beings, they don't want to, there's an inertia to end status quos everywhere in the world. So, but I think with time, this will succeed. And probably the politics, the Indian politics will change forever.
Thank you for that, Ms. Chaudhary.
So sticking with the idea of these connections in politics and how it has a ripple effect, we've heard you say on the campaign trail, and I quote, "We need to end dynasty politics." So you've already told us why you say this, but do you believe that these dynastic elements which are so present in Indian politics is commonplace and something that we just need to accept, or something that we actively need to counter?
You need to counter it. It is absolutely anti-democratic. One really needs to counter it, and it is our work. It is who will counter it? We'll have to counter it, right? We are okay with the fact if someone comes from a dynasty family. Now you look at all these parties here. We talk about liberal values, right? Liberalism means nothing per se in the century that we live. I'm sure you must have read Francis Fukuyama, and he's already said that, ideologies have ended. So, all these geographical areas in the world, they reflect a different kind of liberalism, right? So what is more important are liberal values. What are these liberal values? What are these liberal? Justice is one of them, right? And how is dynasty? This is what I keep on talking about. And that is why when a lot of people, they try to emphasize this fact that I come from a political family. That's bullshit. It is no role in what I am doing. And it doesn't matter where you are born, unless you use that, unless you misuse that, right? If someone was elected a member of Legislative Council and you did not took everything from him, you did not stand on behalf of him, and if you're not asking people to vote you because you are so-and-so's daughter or son, it does not matter. But it does matter when you get access to opportunities just because you're so-and-so's son or daughter. And that is what is happening in politics today. That is why because this is hypocrisy then. This is double standardness. All these big words, being used in Indian politics all the time. Justice and development and social justice. Like, what crap, to be honest. What's the meaning of justice? And I always keep on saying it because, even when I say it so much, people come back to asking the same questions. We'll have to end dynasty politics, because unless we do that, this country won't be democratic. What is the meaning of democracy? Elections is not the meaning of democracy. How you get access to opportunities is really, really important. And my question is, why should someone get access to a political party just because they are someone's son or daughter? It's very difficult opening and running a political party. It's very, very difficult. It's like today you change your job. You'll be leaving LSE and you'll be looking for a job, and it will be different. You're just changing a place, and still it's different. And with that difference, the one thing that you'll have to counter is those difficulties that it will present. And political party, you need access to resources, right? You need access to networks, right? It is very difficult, and you are not qualified. You have no qualification, and you come and you take the place of the, I don't know, you're the face of the chief minister just because your father is so and so, or you are the face of. Okay, tell me something, to be very honest. Are you not qualified enough, both of you? You're qualified enough, right? You can run this country. And then in those circumstances, why should Mr. Rahul Gandhi be the face of Congress? That's a simple question that I want to know. Just because he's born in a certain family, why should Mr. Tejasvi Yadav be the face of his party? That's not justice. That's the mockery of justice. That's the mockery of liberal values. And this is not just in politics. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. It's everywhere, wherever you see. I did not study in a government school. I studied, CBSE. We had the CBSE module. So if you study in the CBSE module or ICSE module, you know how difficult it is. And here people, they have a very easy life just because they are born in a certain family. And they don't think it's wrong, by the way. They don't question it. And that is something that amazes me. How are people not questioning this? What is corruption? You tell me. Is it only taking money? This is corruption. This is being morally corrupt. And everyone who is either a part of it or is siding and batting for these people, when they call themselves liberals, it's really funny, like really, really funny. And then there's this entire nationalist agenda in the country right now. What is the meaning of nationalism? We don't talk about it. What's the meaning of nationalism? How can we grow as a nation if we are not doing well economically? You tell me. I'm really intrigued to know it. And we are not growing economically. All that we are doing inside the country is fighting on the basis of religion, on the basis of caste, and we are going nowhere. And to tackle these things, we need to end Parivarvad completely. We need to end dynasty politics completely. Otherwise, we are in a democratic recession and things will never change, trust me. If we will keep on working on phones on the basis of contacts, things will never change. And it's very easy for people who come from a certain kind of family to get things done. It's very, very easy. And as long as their life is really easy, the life of the rest of the country will be very, very difficult. That's a bitter reality. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Ms. Choudhary. Ms. Choudhary, some people have argued that it was quite the bold move on your part to declare yourself the chief ministerial candidate the first time your party contested state elections. Before we get into the details of the election, how would you rate your level of preparedness and understanding in the realities of running a chief ministerial campaign in Bihar in India?
See, you are never prepared to take on life, right? So you need to start somewhere. You can never know how prepared you are unless you go and you sit in an examination. So even if you think that, okay, I'm really prepared and everything is perfect, and you may not be prepared at all, especially in politics. Things change 24 hours before the election. Things change. There are so many things in politics, so many components of politics, which are very complicated. So yes, maybe I was not well prepared. I was definitely not prepared for COVID. None of us were. I came here on 8th, and the same Monday was this lockdown. And then I had this, I had that option to not contest the election at all. And a lot of people told me, it will be so foolish. I only had 3 months. And in those 3 months, we campaigned. And we were like, no, we will contest this election. Also because it's about credibility. If I have said that I'll contest this election, I will contest this election. And there were so many rumors flying around, Someone wrote that I belong. You know how media is these days. They are just losing that moral compass. 8th of March, someone comes and you have so many prejudice against them. They don't even know me. And it all started with the point that a father is so-and-so. Then it went on to a point that she's been planted by the BJP. Then they said that she's been planted by the JDU. They also said that I was planted by Mr. Tejasvi Yadav. And some even said that I was planted by Mr. Prashant Kishore. And I was like, no, this is all just, they're just lies. Others said that the day she loses the election, she will leave. She'll go back to London, right? So despite all of this that was going on, we decided that we have to do this. And I'm not one of those people, to just back out and say, okay, now I can't do it. If I've said that we'll do it, we'll do it. And that's the same with transforming Bihar. If we are saying that we'll transform Bihar, we'll fight till the day we get there, till the day we are in the Legislative Assembly, till the day we change all these policies, who we talk about, but unfortunately no one is talking about. And then, everything will be exactly as we wanted things to be. So you're never really prepared, if that is what you want to ask. But if you want to do something, you'll have to do it. And that requires a lot of courage. That requires a lot of determination. Like if you are on that path, You can't say tomorrow that, okay, now I'm done, I'm leaving. No, you have to be there.
Thank you. Talking specifically on the election now, Ms. Choudhary, according to the Times of India, the NDA, or the National Democratic Alliance, won 125 seats out of the majority of 122. This seemingly overwhelming result in favor of Prime Minister Modi, some argue, doesn't really allow the space for newcomers to come in and make their mark. Did you expect your party to perform the way it did?
You know, we should talk about how people are winning elections. You know, we should not just talk about, at least you and I, when we are talking, we should not just talk about numbers. And that is what is lacking in Indian politics. We need to talk about how people are winning. You very rightly said that this that is happening in India is not leaving any space for newcomers. But it's not just these political parties. It's also because of other people who are involved in politics, not directly maybe, but who influence politics. You can say all these other pillars of democracy who play a very important role in politics. There is also no space because everything in India, the entire system works in a nexus, right? And that nexus needs to be broken down. It's not just BJP or Congress or any one party that you will blame, and we can say that it's because of these people that there is no space. It's because when you are at a position of power, it is very easy for you to misuse power. And that needs to change. That happened when Congress was there for a very long time. That is happening now when BJP is there. So we need to question, why is it that a party that comes to power stays in power for a very long time? The entire machinery, the entire system belongs to them. Everything, the police force belongs to them. The election commission belongs to them. It should be very easy, right? Say, for example, you want to open a political party. You go and you put an application that I want to open a political party. You have to have 100 people or more who are willing to open a political party. You submit all the documents and then your party should be registered. But it doesn't work like that in our country. And that's why there is no space. If everyone was doing their job correctly, we would be a completely different country. You are saying, you're talking about these numbers. I'll tell you, we still have booth capturings in India. Do you know that? We never talk about these things. If you take money out of politics, this entire Indian politics is based on capitalism. You must have heard of all these new political strategists in India. It's all about money. You can give 500 crores to like anyone and they'll win the election for you, right? It's like buying votes. People buy everything, buy media, and it has become a very badly run business. And I say badly run business because they don't feel that accountability. In any business around the world, businessmen feel that accountability, that if I'm promised the customer something, I have to give that kind of customer service. But for them, it ends there. They win these seats and everything ends. And if these things keep on, and this is another thing that I'll tell you, it's nice that I just remembered. These media people, they'll tell you, mainstream political parties. It's a very common used term in India, mainstream political parties. How can there be mainstream political parties in a democracy? Either you are a party or you aren't a party. How can you be a mainstream political party? Everyone who has opened a party should be given the same space. You should get the same space in the newspapers. But here, that space that you're talking about, it's decided by the size of the chair that you're sitting on. If you are the prime minister, then you have the biggest space. If you're the chief minister, then you have the biggest space. If you are leader of the opposition, you have a bigger space. It's very straightforward to everyone. It's a very simple question. If we are a democracy, which we claim to be, why are we not getting the same space? It is not because of BJP only, trust me. BJP is in India today, and the situation that has become of India today is because of Congress. That vacuum that Congress has created, it's because of that. Congress used to be very corrupt. It's not that we've forgotten about it. And it's not about individuals, let me tell you, it's not about a leader, it's about the entire institution. Politics, these political parties, they're institutions as well, the way they function. And they have functioned in a very corrupt way. And that's the reason, we have this certain rage about, you can say, craze about BJP in India. Right? There's a craze, you can't deny that. All these elections are only about Mr. Modi. No one won here. People, Mr. Nitish Kumar did not win any seats, or Mr. Tejasvi Yadav did not win any seats. It was Mr. Modi who was either voted or not voted. That's the reality here. And, around elections, you'll see his entire propaganda. He'll get all these people to speak for him. Mr. Yogi Adityanath ji came here, and they'll go to all these certain specific areas where there is a lot of Hindu-Muslim tension. And we need to talk about these things, especially we youth need to talk about these things. So to answer your question, yes, there is no political space. We are not mainstream parties anyway, mainstream parties. So it is more difficult to make that space. But then again, one should never forget, if you want to open a political party, parties are because of people, So you win or you lose because of people. If they are standing in favor of you, you will get there. And that is the ultimate of democracy. After all, it will be all about voting. We had just 3 months. And I think I can say, I can fairly say that we have created a huge impact in Bihar. A huge impact just in 3 months, and no media coverage at all. No one was talking about us. We were not getting any space in the print media. No one was writing about us. We were going for those 3 months. We used to be on road all the time. We used to start the day at 5 o'clock, ended at 2 o'clock, but we still were not getting any coverage. And yet people supported us. Maybe not in a very big number, because I told you a lot of things change prior to 24 hours when you go and you vote. And I'm really waiting for that day when we talk about these things, when we talk about why are booths still captured? What is Election Commission doing when there is an evidence that BJP and all these other parties as well, they are distributing saris in packets? Why are they still being allowed to contest that election? Because this is all violating the code of conduct, right? But let me tell you this thing. This entire process of election, it is not a process of inclusion. It's only a process of elimination. If you look at this form that they give you to fill, that's an ordeal. There's this huge form which they give you. And it's very nonsensical, to be honest. They expect you to fill every column. There are hundreds of columns. And they expect you to write lagu nahi in all those columns. So if you are not eligible for something, you have to write not applicable in all those 100 columns. And if you miss one of them, they'll use it as an excuse and they'll disqualify. Hundreds of our party members were disqualified. No one in this country is talking about it. Listen, you are all on your own when you're fighting these people. No one. And this entire election process is meant to be a process of inclusion. And let me tell you this, because you know that I have had family ties as well. So I know for a fact that if you are in power, if you come from a bigger party and you've missed a column, they call you and they tell you, sir, you've missed this column. Can you please come and you fill it? And they disqualify. You're aware that most of the people in my party were educated people. They know how to fill a form, and all these other parties, they do not have very educated. That is not their criteria. Their criteria, you could be a criminal and you can still be given a ticket. And none of their people ever get disqualified. How did hundreds of our people get disqualified? These are very important and hard questions that we need to ask in this so-called democracy. It is not functioning as a democracy at all. This entire process, the entire constitution was created to make this entire process of inclusion and not elimination. But that is how things are.
Ms. Chaudhary, I'm intrigued by something that you just said about how 24 hours prior to the election things can change. Could you elaborate a little bit upon that, and what exactly was your experience 24 hours before polls?
It was amazing in a good way and in a bad way, both. Uh, See, three things that are very important in politics these days is money. You need to have a lot of money. And the second thing is, the right kind of party. And the right kind of party no longer means a good party. It means a party that has a lot of money. And the third thing, you need to be in control of the administration there. These are the three things that are important in politics today. So prior to this 24 hours thing that I was telling you, unfortunately, one of my constituencies, Bispi, and I was there around elections. Unfortunately, everything that is not important otherwise becomes very important, in those 24 hours. You know about how things are in our country, this entire fight, you can say in a way, propaganda, you can say in a way, this Hindu-Muslim propaganda that's there in the country, it's very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. And everyone is communal, by the way. This whole idea that BJP is communal and Congress is not. That is not what happens at the local level. That is not what happens at the local level. It doesn't really matter what they are talking, where they are sitting in Delhi. What matters is what is happening at the local level. So if BJP is talking about it, even the other forces are talking about the same thing. So these things, you can say it's just propaganda, because they overemphasize these things. They create this atmosphere of fear. There were people who told me that BJP today, next election, plurals. Because, and it all happened in those 24 hours. People went around, all these candidates. Let me be honest. I'm very honest. If you want to know, I'll tell you. All these candidates, they went to these people and they told them, they spread all these rumors. They told them that this is going to happen if BJP comes to power. The other said this is going to happen if RJD comes to power, and that creates a lot of tension. And after the election, I went to these constituencies a few days back, and then someone told me, the problem is we vote the party, that party, if we think that this party can defeat BJP, we vote that party. And you know why they said it? Because of this atmosphere of fear, right? And they do it, 24 hours prior to the election, they do it. They create this entire, it's a very different kind of scene that you will see. You'll see all these BJP jandas everywhere. And then, even the RJD's jandas. It's a very bad atmosphere of fear. It's that tension, it's visible everywhere that you go. Other than that, and not everyone is going to be that fearful. So for them, what they do is they use a lot of money. And it's not something new that I'm telling you. I mean, all of us know it. And these are the things that we need to change. And I somehow feel I'm not saying that I'm not one of those dreamers, but I obviously feel that these things will change. And we are trying to do that.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Chaudhary.
A quote from a news article reads, and I quote, "Pushpam is a new entrant in Bihar politics where caste defines the dynamics and thus the outcome. We all know how caste plays a large role in politics nationally, but to speak specifically about yourself, did the pervasiveness of caste in politics play a role in your choice of constituency?"
See, caste is overemphasized. It's overemphasized. You read all these people, when you're researching, a lot of people, they have done this research on Bihar politics, and you read all of them, and they'll tell you it's a post-clientelistic phase now. It's a post-clientelist era. What is more important is clientelism. And these are the things that need to end, I would say. Clientelism just means that you're distributing favors and resources, in your communities. So if you take clientelism out of politics, caste will have no use today. It used to be very prominent at a point of time when we had varnas, right? Now that entire notion of Varna has been converted into Jatis. And now today in this 21st century, people vote in Jati clusters, you know. And this Jati cluster is so prominent because of money, because of favors, that whole patron-client relationship. So if you take that money out of it, if today there's this rule that from the next election, no favors and no money will be distributed, this entire caste equation will completely fall. And
then you think that this emphasis that's being given to caste politics is an underestimation of the general public's political awareness?
I absolutely feel it, and it is not a drawing room philosophy that I'm talking about. It's a reality. See, if you come to these places with me, a lot of people, you know, they come here around election, they go and they interview people and they ask these few questions. You are at LSE, you know the downside of interviewing people. You know, I mean, there are so many things that you cannot capture just by interviewing people. If you live there, if you see the way they behave, there is no denying that caste is very important in Bihar. There's no denying that. And it is only obvious, right? Because we have this long history of oppression. There's a long history of oppression. And you will not believe, a lot of people will dislike you or like you just because the basis of your caste, right? Even in politics, everything happens because of the caste that you come from, the politics that's happening in Bihar today, all the transfers, all the postings of even officers, even bureaucrats, depends on the caste that they come from. That is how things are. You can read Mr. Christopher Jeffrey. I think in your talks as well. He's written about this very extensively in his book, The Silent Revolution. So this is how things are. Caste is important. However, I come from the Mr. Ambedkar school of thought. We need to completely abolish caste. And how are we going to do that? You know, 74 years ago, when we had this entire reservation system, why did we have that reservation system? So that one day there'll be no caste difference. One day people will have equal access to opportunities, right? But that has not happened. It has only become identity politics. Caste is important because it talks about representation, right? And representation and identity politics are completely different things. Today, caste has become a thing only for elections. People only talk about caste during elections. Once they get votes from you, they never go back to these constituencies. They never go back to the people they claim to represent. And let me be very, very honest with you. This is representation fraud that they've been doing. This is representation fraud, right? If I tell you that I'm representing you because we share the caste, we share the identity, I should not be poor at all then. I should have all those opportunities that you have access to. But that does not happen. That does not happen in 74 years. I'll tell you another example. I was talking to one of these gentlemen in one of the interviews. And you know, when you're talking, at times you do not hear what the other person is saying. And later when I was looking at that interview, that gentleman, he corrected me and he told me in the interview that a lot of people in India do not like calling themselves Harijan anymore, right? The instance was that I was telling him that I went to a constituency where a person took me to an area which was Harijan Tola. And I asked that person, what is the name of this place? And he said, it's Harijan Tola. And then I asked him again, what is the name of this place? And he again said, Harijan Tola. I'm aware of this entire discussion on Mahadalit and this Harijan, this patronizing term between Ambedkar and Gandhi. But are these people aware? Right? If you're calling yourself a Harijan and you're not aware about it, it doesn't matter what's happening in Delhi. It doesn't matter what people are sitting and writing about. These are the people who matter. And these are the points that we should be discussing now. They are not aware. They have no idea that there was this discussion between Gandhiji and Ambedkar. And then the entire nation agreed that we should be called Mahadalits because, you know, that's a better term. That's a less demeaning term, less patronizing term. So what is important in this country? What is more important is that these people who others are fighting for, they should be aware of where they stand. And they are still fighting for all these basic things. He took me there because there was no road. There was no road. And you go to Vidhan Sabha today, and hundreds of people will stand and say that I represent them. If you represent them, then how come they do not have roads? How come they do not have proper healthcare, proper education? So this is all this representation fraud that's going on in this country. Raja Ram Mohan Rai was not a woman, right? Was he? He was not. But he still fought for women. So it doesn't matter where you come from. I want to fight for everyone. And you cannot stop me from doing that just because you are born in so and so caste. What is more important is your actions. And your actions are just and plain representation fraud. I'll tell you more straightforwardly. This entire caste dynamic that we talk about, Mr. Lalu Yadav ji has been very famously, been overemphasized as Garibo ka Masiha, right? And there's this entire social justice thing that comes with him. Why is not a Garib then leading his party? Very simple question. If he is the Masiha of representation, why is not a Garib leading his party? Why is his son leading that party? Where is social justice in that, right? And actions are more important. And I am trying to work on that. Plurals is trying to work on that. We have people from all the castes and all the religions. Seriously, we have everyone in the party. We never talk about caste. We're not asking what your caste is. I don't know the caste of anyone in my party. Yet we respect caste, yet we respect religion. But then if we keep on talking about caste, it's an umbrella, it's a camouflage that these politicians use to divert your attention from policy issues, to divert your attention about schools. Schools in Bihar are in such a bad state. Today in the Jali district, today, I'm talking about today. So there was this school and somehow there was current in the gate of the school and a girl died at the spot. And then 6 kids who went to help her. It was electricity, right? They got a shock and they are very seriously injured. And we never talk about these things because life does not matter here. People have, your life is a value and it depends only if you are a so powerful person in Bihar. And no one is talking about all of it, and tomorrow you will see Mr. Chief Minister, he'll come and he'll declare that I'm really sad about this incident. It's so unfortunate, and we'll give 4 lakhs rupees to this family. Is that kid going to come back? No one here takes accountability for their actions. Who is responsible for this death? And I was talking to this person today, and I told them that just imagine if she was your daughter, what would today be, and how your life would be in future. And this is what they do, around elections, they talk about caste and then they talk about religion and, they create this really messy environment. But a lot of people, a lot of people tell me that you've come before time, you're ahead of your time. That's not true. I am here. If I exist here, it means that there are a lot of people who want change. I'm not alone. The party is growing bigger and bigger every passing day. And, in just those 3 months, and regardless of all this negativity that was being spread about me and so many rumors, they publish an ad in newspaper every day, these other political parties, and they publish it either using government funds or they publish it using all the black money that they get for their party. And I published one ad, and that too by crowdfunding. And yet I was asked so much about that ad and no one else is being asked any question there. So regardless of all of it, all this negativity, people are making plurals very, very strong. We got votes on all the booths in Bihar. They kept on saying that no one knows her, no one knows this party. These candidates, they went and they said, they threatened our candidates and they said that you will not win. So bad jaiye, you should not contest this election. They told people that this party is not going to win and so parties will come and all those religious divide we tried to create. And yet we got lakhs of votes. And these lacks of votes count. And so we are here for them and we'll fight for them.
Let's spend some time discussing the importance of young leaders or just young people in politics today. According to India today, India is a country where 65% of the population is below the age of 35. But the average age of our Prime Minister's cabinet is 60 years age, and only 12% of the Lok Sabha is considered, in quotes, young. There's a quote by a political analyst that I read about yourself, Ms. Chaudhary, and it reads, "I do not know how big a factor Pushpam Priya is going to be," but he adds, "But the way fresh faces are raising slogans of change in Bihar, it is clear that the state is staring at a leadership crisis." Do you see yourself as a catalyst for other women or just young people to get involved in politics in India?
Yes, I do. And not just as a catalyst, I'll force them to join politics. I'm telling you that because, as you very rightly said, our population is younger nowadays. You know, the majority is of young people. Also, I have seen this thing. You know, people from our age, we are not stuck with all those caste and religious divides. I think we are more plural, to be honest. We respect everyone. We have friends from all spheres. We are not in that box that was created initially in our country, unfortunately. And it's not just identity, it's otherwise also. We respect people from all classes. So I think more and more young people should come into politics. And that is only obvious, right? That is only something that is expected. You look at all these countries in the world. So I was looking at, this. So the French Prime Minister, Mr. Macron, I mean, he came to India at one of these, probably last year, and I don't know when exactly. But, they were meeting their cabinet and our cabinet, they were having a formal meeting. And you look at the difference in the age. They are all young people. What I'm trying to say is age has nothing to do with policy making. In our country, unfortunately, somehow we think that in politics, we have to select a grandfather. But that is not what we are expected to do. We are supposed to select someone who can run the country, who can actually do some public service. But in India, because we have seen this crazy misuse of power since we are born, we are very hesitant to vote someone who is young. Because we think that when this person grows old, then and only then this person should be given the kind of power that politicians have. But that is not power. What we see politicians use is misuse of power. And that is something that I think young people understand, or they should understand, that having 4 escorts, all on public money, having police officers around. Police officers are not for politicians. Police officers are for security of the masses, for the public. And all these politicians are around or are after. If you talk to these politicians in Bihar and you ask them, why do you want to be in power? They'll give you, they'll tell you a lot of things for the sake of the camera. But in reality, they want it for that lal batti. Now they're not given that lal batti anymore, but everything else that comes with it, even today. And I think young people, they get it. They don't like it. At least probably, I'm not right, I don't know, but the young people I meet, I think they don't like it. They'll question you, even if you have your own bodyguard and you're paying that bodyguard, they'll ask you that, why do you have a bodyguard? So I'm sure they do not like the fact that these politicians, they are using public money for the comforts that they enjoy. So yes, more and more young people should come, more and more qualified people should come. I know, this question also have been asked a lot, that, in a country like India, where, everyone is not educated, are you saying that people who are not educated do not have a right to enter politics? No, I'm not saying that. But a very important question here is, why are they still not educated after 74 years? Who was responsible for access to education? You must have studied capability deprivation, and that is very prominent in our country. And these are the things that the youth of the country realizes. We understand that opportunity is important. We understand that everyone, regardless of their identity, should be given that opportunity. Even if we are not in this situation, we feel for each other. And that is why I think young people should come in policy making. It's this thing, maturity has nothing to do with age. Maturity is a state of mind. You can be very mature when you are young, and you can never be mature. You will see all these irresponsible politicians. You'll see them give all these immature comments, sometimes about women, sometimes about a certain caste or community. So if you are mature, if you have what it takes, it doesn't matter what your age is. If you want to change your society, you should do it. And we have examples in the country. We come from the country of Mr. Bhagat Singh. He was 23 years old. He wrote books, and he wrote books that will change your life. So age is nothing to do with it. And I think all of us should enter politics.
Thank you, Ms. Choudhary. It was very insightful. As we wrap up our interview, we wanted to know a bit more about your vision for India in 2022 when we celebrate our 75th year of independence. You've espoused a vision to turn Bihar into Europe by the year 2030. In what specific ways would you like it to change? And also, do you believe this goal to be a tenable one? And if so, why?
When I talk about transformation, when I talk about change, I always talk about public services. I always talk about human development. And of course, these are very well attainable. These are things that can be done. You know that the state is very powerful. More than power, it's the state's responsibility to do these things. 10 years is a very long time. You look at our neighbor, Bangladesh, they have done really well in human development. They have succeeded in creating opportunities inside their country. And if they can do it, we can do it as well. We have the most fertile land in the world in Bihar. And our productivity is very poor. It's because state never takes interest in any of the public services. They do not know the meaning of development. I told you, in 21st century, if you do not have jobs, that's really, really unfortunate. There are no jobs in Bihar. A lot of people in India hate Biharis because they think we take their job, and we don't have an option. Our education, the quality of education is really poor. So if you want to do more, if you want to study more, you're forced to go outside the state. If you have the means, of course. We have no job opportunity. What will you do in Bihar? Everyone is forced to go out of the state. And yet in these past 30 years or so, they have not created, they failed to create any job opportunities. And they think only sarkari jobs are jobs. We have no industries in Bihar, do you know? I went to all these places and tried. People have lost that hope. This is what they've seen of politics since the day they've been born in India. And they've completely lost faith. They've lost hope. They think the governments are never going to do anything. And we used to have these industries, and now they are all shut. There are no industries, there are no job opportunities. And it can be very easily done by public policy. If we have a government, a government that focuses on human development, a government that spends money on health and education, how will a society grow? It's a very simple question, right? Education. Education is the key. We need to teach our kids. And there is a very strong correlation between your education and the money that you earn in life. These are all evidence-based facts. This is not some armchair philosophy. It is happening in this world. Initially when I came and I said that I want to make this place as good as Europe, someone posted a photo of a sea in Europe and said that, how is she going to get this sea in Bihar? I'm not talking about that. I'm not saying that I'll bring the sea from Europe and put it here. What I'm saying is that we deserve the kind of public policy, we deserve the kind of public services that you get in Europe. If you're living in London right now, you see the entire government is working for you. all that they do is they work on good public services. If you're unwell, you'll make one call and the ambulance will be there within 3 minutes. And while you're walking on the road, you'll hear all these sirens and where are they going? They are going because they got a call from someone who is a common citizen. And this is something which is attainable, right? All that you need is someone who knows how to enforce law, someone who cares about people. And that is something that lacks. And this is what I want. This is how I want to Bihar to be. This is how I want India to be. It is not just a problem in Bihar. Yes, we're doing the worst in the country. Yes, we need to do much, much better. But then public services, even in India, are not very different. We still have a very long way to go. And more importantly, I also talk about education because I think we need to focus more on quality education, the kind of education that tells people that, we need to move on. Progress means, everyone coming together for one goal and not just progress. I mean, that's the meaning also of nationalism. We all will have to come together because there is no difference between citizens. It doesn't matter where we come from. It doesn't matter what our identity is. We all want the same things. We all want education. We all want health. We all want better public services. It doesn't matter who we pray and who we worship or which place we come from. And even to attain that, the governments need to focus more on education. But here in India, the governments, who should be more accountable and more responsible and responsive, all that they focus on is, somehow dividing the country. These are all things, right? We used to study in school. The British government used to have this policy, divide and rule. And unfortunately, we still have that policy. And these things we need to question. We need to challenge. Very positive things will, because I need these people, in villages and in all these small areas where there is no presence of the government. And we all want the same thing. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did, Ms. Choudhary, and thank you very much. Just very lastly then, I wanted to ask you, does the future of Indian politics look like you? People that are young, educated, outspoken, and are keen to make a change in politics in India today?
I certainly hope so. It should. I want the same things that people who created this country wanted. And I'm sure that, a lot of people in this country want the same things. That is why that entire struggle for independence was. And I'm very hopeful, really. And we have been impacting others as well. We've impacted politics as well. Even in Bihar, no one used to talk about jobs and no one used to talk about development in any of these elections. You go back and you study all these elections. But this election, things changed. Everyone started talking about jobs. Everyone started talking about young people. And you will not believe all these old parties, like even JDU, and they started after election getting new people and putting them on all their holdings. So I'm hopeful things will change. And I just hope that the young people realize it. I hope that they enter politics because we want different things. I mean, I may be a little rude, but I think most of these politicians are very outdated. They don't understand what the country needs. They don't understand what the young people need, and it's very difficult to even connect with these people. Most of the statements that they give, it's absurd, right? Even yesterday, I heard some chief minister somewhere said something about ripped jeans. I mean, in 21st century, they're still talking about clothes and what girls are wearing. So this is not progress and this is not moving ahead. We're just going back. And the only people in this country who can change it are the people who are young. So yeah, I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answers, Ms. Choudhary. On that note, we will
conclude
an episode of the LSE One India Talks. On behalf of the London School of Economics and the LSE SU South Asia Society, we want to extend a warm thank you to Ms. Pushpam Priya Choudhary for coming to talk to us today. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And it was my pleasure talking to both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.